Hello everybody, good afternoon. This is Indu Das, and today we are going to work on this MacBook Pro 2018 model A1706, and here the fan has gone bad. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace the fan. Tools required are pretty straightforward. The screwdriver set and a headgear, which is very useful to see closer with the lights, and a magnetic mat, because once you take the screws out you have difficulty keeping track of it unless you have a magnet mat like this. And lastly, the main item, which is the fan. So I'll provide the link of all these items in my description. So let's get to it. First thing first, on the back we have 4 screws, which are the small size, and 2 which are a little bit longer size, and all of them will essentially use the same screwdrivers number, which is basically 1.2. So that's what we're going to do. Now that all the screws are out, we are going to put that on the mat, label it accordingly, and then pry open a little bit from one side and then push it downward. So that's the trick to get the back cover out. For prying, my screwdriver set didn't have that tools, the prying tool as well as the suction cup. So I ended up getting another one which had both the things, and using that I just pried it open a little bit on one side and then just push it forward. And this is where the other two places where it clicks. One is here and one is here. This is the board. That board has to come off before I can replace the fan. So this is the fan and this is the fan. So there are multiple screws, different type of screws that we have to open. As you can see, this is the cover for the battery. The very first thing is that I have to disconnect the battery. So there are multiple wiring harness here that we need to unplug. Say for example, this is the one. Then as you can trace, this is another one, another one, another one more here, one more here, and here. There's one over there too. So altogether you need only 3 different types of screwdrivers for this set. One is T3, another one is T5, and while opening the back cover, remember it was T1.2. So these are the only 3 ones that you would need. But once you open the back cover, you need only 2, T3 and T5. T3 is shown in yellow and T5 is shown in red. So I'm going to start with T5. Now time to start with T3 for the remaining screws. This one you have to be a little bit careful. There are 3 wiring harness that needs to be unhooked, and they just you can just lift them up like this. So whenever some screw gave me tough time, rather than trying to loosen it at that very moment, I kind of took a break, went to another one, because one of the thing is that these screws heads are very kind of soft, and you are likely to, if you apply too much force, you're likely to mess it up. So that's why be careful. So that's why I went back to T3 and T5, so that I make sure that every screw is really opened or unscrewed very delicately, not to mess things up. I still end up messing like two of two of the screws heads. Uh, but anyway, just wanted to draw your attention towards that. This particular busted, so I just have to move this out of the way. Now that all the screws are out, now it was about time to start looking into how I can remove all the wiring, the connectors off. And for that I started tracing from one side to another. Slowly I started unhooking all the connectors, and to to my surprise, there were a couple of other screws that were still not out yet. So I started doing that also on the way. While removing the wiring harness, be very careful, because if you damage even a little bit, then the whole effort is a lost cause. It's very difficult to repair that. So for the wiring harness for each of these, or almost most of them, you would notice there is a tiny little flap, so that you have to lift up, and then you have to pull the wiring thing out very slowly. So wherever you see the need, you would see that there's a tiny little flap. You have to lift it up and then pull it out. Now that I'm very confident that all the screws are out and all the connectors are disconnected, so it's about time to slowly start wiggling up the board and then take it off. And when you do that, be pay very high attention that it if you are feeling any resistance, then you need to trace it to see that something is still not connected. I found that a couple of times. So you have to kind of feel it, that if you're feeling any resistance, because if you're feeling any resistance, then most probably something is still connected. So that's why it took me a lot of time. But yeah, you don't definitely don't want to damage it, right? So after a couple of minutes of wiggling this around, making sure that nothing is still connected, I could finally got it out. Alright, now I have the access to the old fan. As you can see, the nuts are very clear here, clearly marked, which you need to unhook, and that's very straightforward. So I just unhooked the old fan, removed the old fan, and started putting the new fans. Alright, so the new fan is in, as you can see, and then now we are just going to go back and put the board back. Some precaution for the board. Remember, there are two rubber grommets. They have to clip on the top of the board, so make sure that don't miss it. And another thing is that make sure that before you start screwing even a single one, make sure that all the wiring connectors are out of the way, because even if one is pressed inside, it will be very difficult to pull it out. So that's why you have to make sure that all the wiring connectors are out of the way. Take as much time as you need, but put it out of the way before screwing even the single one. So these are the two precautions, and that's it. I started screwing everything back, and that's the end of the story. Screwing the nuts back is just the opposite of disassembly, so I'm not going to spend much time on it. But one thing is, the mat that I suggested earlier, that came out very handy at this time, because I exactly knew which nut to go where, and there was no confusion. So that's why I will strongly recommend. And lastly, I just put the cover back on, put the screws back on, and that's it. I think it already had some power on, so everything worked as expected. Thanks so much for watching.